Hey everybody, how's it going? It's me, it's Comic Crack. This will be not a huge video. It's kind of part test, part talking about a solitaire game that that went on sale today on Drive Through RPG, I think is what the site is. It cost me, just over $4 Canadian. You get all the files. You print everything up yourself, or you can take it to a printer, or those are your options really. So it's called The Drifter, and it's a Wild West adventure game. So basically, you play a kind of no good drifter who's lived his life in kind of shadier paths. And it's a paragraph type of game. It's an RPG. It's a role-playing game, basically. So you're playing this role, you're reading passages, you're rolling lots of dice, you're moving through your map, and you're trying to complete missions. The end result is you're trying to collect $300. You're trying to make a total of $300. Once you've made that money, the game is over. You've won. While you're going around to kind of complete missions, discover towns. There's 3 red dots on the map here. Those are towns. There's more to be discovered. They give you you print up some little chits that say a town on it. And when you discover one, you just put it down on the hex where the town is. There's also points of interest, so they give you these numbered tokens as well too. And if you come across something that in the book tells you is a point of interest, you put that down to kind of mark that as well. The kind of little bit that I've done so far, I just kind of did the setup. I haven't started playing yet, and we won't talk about any of the kind of paragraphs in this one because, that's the meat of the game, right? So I don't really want to spoil any of that stuff. So I thought we'd just talk about the general setup and just kind of solo games in general. So, one of the things that when I'm playing these style of games, especially war games, hex encounter type games, it's not always the easiest to get other people interested in it. I don't have a gaming circle. I don't have I'm not part of a gaming group. And people that play war games. So for the most part, I'm trying to make some of the war games that I have solo playable. And for the most part, that's easy to do. There's a couple of games that we have where there's hidden movement and that sort of thing. So you do need to play against somebody because that element of surprise isn't there. So when it comes to games that are specific to solo play, I'm all over them. Nate Hayden, Cave Evil Crew, they did that House in the Borderlands, which was a solo game. There's another one coming to me. I want to say it's the Mountain Man. I can't believe I'm blanking on the name right now. But that's a solo game as well, too. So in a thread about that new game, Joan Angelo, who's also here on YouTube, I'm sure those of you who watch my channel know about his channel. If you don't, check him out. In one of the threads, he mentioned this game. It was thanks to him that I found out about it and went and just started working on it and wanted to sit down to play it. So to create a good solo game is extremely difficult. One that's going to keep your interest, one that's going to give you a type of a story, one that's going to present something to you. My all-time favorite solo game has to be Comancheria. Just because the AI in it is so incredibly well done that it really does end up feeling like you're playing against somebody. The work that went into that game is exceptional, makes it for a really fun playthrough. So stuff like this, it's about the story, this specific one, whereas that was kind of reenacting a time in history with some story elements thrown in. This is really about the story. This is really about going around the map and discovering, just like Nate and Crew's new game is. The new game, which we will talk about when it gets here and I start to play it. That game, you actually draw on the map. So the map is mostly empty. And as you're kind of moving through the spaces, you're actually drawing on it in crayon or laying something over top that you can draw on top of to kind of mark the terrain and mark your discoveries. So how do you kind of mix that type of game up? I'm not so sure how it works in his yet. I haven't read the rules or anything, but this one, the rules are really, really simple, which is great. That's not a criticism. This one, how they deal with some of that is by different columns. So at the beginning of the game, you're doing a number of things, and one of them is finding out for your I need my glasses, sorry. Your bounty suit is what the column is called, is what the table is called up here. So you're rolling on that, and that's going to give you different outcomes depending on kind of what game you're playing. So I'm on the X column. So for the entirety of this game, whenever I have to do a roll on this table, I'll be looking in the X column. And you roll a D100, which basically is just 2 D10s. To find out where you're going to be going. One is the 10s column, one is the 1s column. And that's where, again, that's where the heart of the game is, reading through those paragraphs. So when you move into a hex, you have to do an event roll, basically, to take you to a paragraph to see what you've discovered on that hex. I'm sure the terrain is going to have something to do with it as well, but we'll look at that in a second. So that's where you're looking. That's the basics of that. You start out the game. Let's take this stuff off of here. Here's the individual player sheet. So you start out the game at Drifter's wound level. You start off with 0 wounds. In the first kind of opening introductory paragraph, you wake up in the middle of wherever it is, and there's a die roll that you do to say which hex you're going to start on. You're dazed, you don't know what the hell is going on, and then you kind of start your adventure there. So your wound list will kind of go down if you get hit when you discover people and you get into gunfights. Hunch, I have 1 hunch. I haven't, it doesn't really explain it too much. I'm sure it'll come up. Karma, I have 2 karma. Karma allows you to re-roll when you're in a combat. If you got a result that you weren't crazy about, you can re-roll. You can only re-roll once, and you have to take that. And then your money tracker, you do start the game with the possibility of a couple of bucks in your pocket. I must have had a particularly rough night because I have 0 money. And you have your fists and a pistol for your weapons there. And again, those tables will come into play when we're looking on the weapons tables, and when you get into a fight with somebody, those symbols, the X, spades, diamonds, hearts, and clubs. So that's how you start. You also get a sheet where you can track the people that you discover. You can track their health level as well too. There's another sheet as well that has another 4 of these on it. I've just printed up this one for now. You can find people. You can find people that become your partners at the top of this sheet. You can put in their stats there. And then there you see the points of interest. So you write down the hex number, you write down the name of the point of interest, and the event number where you discovered it. The event number is basically the paragraphs in the second half. So what I decided to do, you can use kind of whatever tokens you want. I printed some stuff up from online. So there's one of the characters from Jeremiah. The other ones are in here. I put them in the folder. I printed up some Blueberry, and then I also printed up Jeremiah on his horse here to kind of walk around. Where was I here? 3.7, I believe, to kind of move through the map on his horse. And then this is to track his health over here. So that's that side of it. Also on this sheet, you have your weapons table. So each of the weapons, it's going to give you different strengths, different abilities to hit and inflict wounds on people. Skill test table, I believe is what that says. Same thing. And then loot table. if you see down the second last one there, the loot table itself, after you've defeated somebody, there's a potential to kind of rifle through their pockets to see what they have. You'll roll on that table. It'll tell you which suit to roll under, and you can make some discoveries. And then loot event down at the bottom there. So as I was talking about, the rule book itself is, what do we got here? Looks like it's, I believe it was about 15 pages. It's really minimally written. We're not dealing with an SPI game with column after column of rule sets and case numbers. It's double spaced and pretty easy to go through. Breaks it down. There's not a lot. There's not a ton of complexity to this game. I'm sure the complexity will come in when you're faced with choices, things to do during the game itself. And then I've marked off here just for ease. There's 234 different cases, I think. We'll give you one quick glimpse there. So that's kind of how they're broken down, each of them. And again, as you're going through the game, it's going to tell you to go to a different event. And in that event is going to give you the next part of the story and things that you have to roll on. So that takes up the rest of the book here, which is all of these pages. So when you're starting out, you're rolling for your hunch, you're rolling for your karma, you're rolling for your money, and then you're rolling for which hex you're going to start on. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I've got all my stats going. I know where I'm starting in the mountains here. So the map itself, I guess, is the last thing we'll talk about. You're seeing different terrain types here. There's a key down at the bottom here. So these orange ones with the triangles are mountains. This is marsh. This is forest. This is desert. And then this is grasslands in here and a mix. So in the game, you can't travel outside of the board in any direction. You just kind of keep moving one hex at a time. Unlike some hex encounter games, you'll have a movement allowance per the character. This one is you can only move one hex at a time. There's a train track that goes through, a railroad rather, that goes through. And then there's some waters and lakes here as well too. Streams and lakes rather, or rivers and lakes possibly. And like I said, these are the towns that you know of, that we know of on the map here. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then you'll discover as you go. So that's pretty much the game. If you do want it, I did leave the link in this video down in the description box if you want to go and check it out. I've used DriveThruRPG a couple of times when I've done a print and play, but I haven't looked a lot at what they have on offer. I did a quick check while I was looking at this one just to see what other solitaire games they have. They seem to have quite a few, but a lot of them they had, for some reason, you're buying the game, but you're getting watermarked PDF files, which I don't quite understand. Anyway, so if you're new to gaming, if you want to try something out, I'd say this is probably a pretty good place to start. The biggest expense is going to be printing. I was looking online locally to see if I could get these printed up and put in like a spiral ring binder. The cost was ridiculous, anywhere from kind of $90 to $110. So we have a pretty good printer. There's a place in town that they can refill the cartridges with ink for us. There's a place where they'll recycle those cartridges, so the cost is a lot less. But that hasn't classically been the way that it goes. If you don't have a quality printer, there's nothing saying you have to print all this in color. If anything, I would just print the map in color, and the rule book itself and the event tables, they don't need to be in color. They can be in black and white, and you won't lose anything there. I blew up the map a little bit more. I found it was just a little too small just for one sheet of paper, so I stretched it out to 4 pieces here. I stretched it out to 4 pieces of paper just to kind of blow it up a bit. And like I said, I made my own standees just because, you know, I thought it would be fun to do. And that's about it. So that's the game. Again, called The Drifter. And if you're interested, follow that link. thanks very much for tuning in. I've seen a couple of people pop in and out, but there you go. The Drifter, a Wild West adventure game. We'll talk to you.